Don't skip. Have you ever felt like you had to stay strong while falling apart inside? Like you had to fake being okay in a world that doesn't let you break down? No one came to save you. And that's when it hit you. If you don't stand up for yourself, no one else will. That's not failure. That's a wake-up call. Life will test you with pressure, with loss, with doubt, and with loneliness. And only one kind of person makes it through. The ones with unbreakable mental toughness. But mental toughness doesn't just appear. It's forged. It demands a rock-solid mindset. And Stoicism is that weapon. Not some dry philosophy buried in books, but a way of life that once kept Roman generals calm in the chaos of war, and that now helps modern people stay grounded in a chaotic world. Want to stop being ruled by your emotions? Turn pain into power. Stay on course when no one believes in you. This video will show you how to build mental toughness the way real warriors have always done it, and you can too. Let's begin. Number 1. Relentlessly seek. Relentlessly seek. Discomfort. Discomfort. There's a certain type of person the modern world calls reckless. They train their bodies through brutal discipline, trek across deserts with nothing but a backpack, wake up at 4 a.m. to learn a new language, or say no to comfort when everyone else is saying yes. But to a Stoic philosopher, these people aren't crazy. They're simply awake. They understand one thing. Discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the gateway to strength. No one forges steel in cool water. Seeking discomfort isn't about self-punishment. It's a mindset. Choosing to face reality rather than run from it. Choosing voluntary hardship to master your reactions. A Stoic doesn't wait for adversity to toughen up. They create it so their mind won't be caught off guard. Like a fighter drilling punches before the match, the Stoic puts themselves through daily trials, waking up early, skipping a meal, confronting fear, doing what they've long avoided just to prove they're still in control. So, what do you actually control in your life? How often do you dodge discomfort just because it feels off? Are you living as if every moment of unease is a personal failure instead of seeing it as mental weight training? The philosopher Epictetus once said, "What ought one to say then, as each hardship comes? I was practicing for this. I was training for this." Think of that line when you're standing in the rain, stuck in traffic, or facing rejection. That's not bad luck. That's your training ground. That's where willpower is built. You can start small. Leave your phone in another room at night. Walk instead of calling a ride. Speak the truth instead of what's easy. And apologize instead of staying silent. Every time you choose the harder path, you send a message to your brain, "I'm not ruled by comfort," and soon your mind starts to follow that lead. That's the beginning of resilience. Sounds good in theory, but does it work when life hits hard? Look at David Goggins, a former Navy SEAL. At one point, he weighed nearly 300 pounds and faced constant racism and lived in fear and self-doubt. One day he made a decision. If life was hell, he'd become the demon inside it. He ran for miles daily, studied into the early hours, and did the things no one asked of him because discomfort became his chosen weapon against collapse. He's not superhuman. He's proof that anyone can build mental armor if they're willing to walk the path no one wants. The reason most people fail isn't lack of talent or intelligence. It's because they're allergic to discomfort. Think about it. How many times have you quit just because you were tired, bored, or not in the mood? If you wait on motivation, you'll always be a slave to emotion. The Stoic trains for a different reflex. Act even when it's not easy. Emotions are clouds. Willpower is the ground. Where do you choose to stand? But here's where people often get it wrong. Living with discomfort doesn't mean living in misery. The difference is purpose. Purposeful discomfort builds growth. Pointless suffering destroys. Stoics don't endure pain to prove something. They do it to build autonomy. And autonomy is the one thing no one can take from you. So starting today, pick one thing you've been avoiding because it makes you uncomfortable. Maybe it's a hard conversation, a phone call you've been dreading, a subject that makes you feel dumb. Maybe it's stepping into a cold shower each morning and saying, "I'm training." Do it long enough and what once scared you becomes normal. And what's normal becomes your strength. Because if you don't choose the hard path, life will choose it for you. And by then, you won't have time to train. Remember, strength doesn't come from advice. It comes from action. Repeated, intentional, uncomfortable action. Start today. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Life doesn't offer rehearsals. Every time you run from inconvenience, you skip a rep in your mental gym. And when you've learned to live with discomfort, it's time for the next level. Push beyond your limits. Push yourself beyond the limit. Number 2, push yourself beyond the limit. What happens if you stop the moment you're tired? If you turn back every time failure shows its face? If you only do what's easy, safe, and within reach? The answer is simple. You'll never discover who you truly are. No one finds their limits in their comfort zone. Mental resilience. The Stoic's inner stronghold isn't forged in calm. It's built in the moments when you feel like quitting. But keep going anyway. The human mind has an emergency brake. The moment your body starts to ache, your heart races, and procrastination whispers in your ear, it kicks in. That's enough. But the Stoics learned to disable that brake, not to punish themselves, but to see where the real limits are and to go one step further. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." If you can't control your mind, you can't control anything. That's why Stoicism doesn't teach you to achieve more, but to become strong enough to endure more. So, what's bothering you? Write it down. Stuck doing a job you hate. Feel disrespected, afraid of public speaking, hesitant to apologize, scared of failure. That list isn't a curse, it's a compass. Every single item is an entry point for training, not escape. History isn't shaped by the comfortable. Look at Sir Ernest Shackleton, who led his crew through 500 days trapped in the Antarctic ice after their ship. The endurance was crushed. He didn't promise safety. He didn't beg for rescue. He made decisions and took action. The ice broke, the food ran out, temperatures dropped to 40 C, and still he pushed himself and his crew past the brink of despair, and not a single man died. That wasn't just leadership. It was proof that humans can transcend their limits when they refuse to surrender to the mind. Here's the truth. Most people live their lives using only 40 of their potential. Not because they lack ability, but because they're trapped behind a mental threshold. Breaking past it isn't romantic. It looks like making that one extra sales call after 20 rejections, lacing up your shoes to run in the freezing rain, staying silent when you'd rather scream, reading one more chapter when your eyes are burning. These small repeated acts, that's where grit is built. If you need a place to start, try this. Every week, choose one thing you hate, but that isn't dangerous, and do it on purpose. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Call someone and apologize. Work out without music. Go 24 hours without complaining. When you intentionally step into discomfort, your body reacts. Your mind resists. But eventually, it adapts. And each time you get used to the unfamiliar, you gain a new layer of armor. Only through repetition in the face of resistance does something inside you shift for good. You don't have to cross Antarctica, but you do have to cross through yourself. So, where are you right now? Still stuck at 40? Or have you ever truly hit your edge and pushed beyond it? Are you ready to work? Not just when you're motivated, but when your mind begs you to stop. If not, who's running your life? You or that emergency brake in your head? The answer isn't in a mantra. It's in the action. Relentless, uncomfortable. Take one more step, especially when you think you can't. That step, not the first, not the last, is what defines you. And once you do it once, you can do it again every day. Like a ritual. Mental resilience doesn't show up on its own. It's born in hardship and raised by discipline. But to lay the foundation for that resilience, you need to give up one dangerous lie. I can't. You can. But before you conquer the world, you need to face something harder, your own weaknesses. That's the next step. It won't be easy, but you're ready. Number 3, face your weaknesses. Face your weaknesses. There's a strange truth most people shy away from. What you're most ashamed of might be the very place your greatest strength is waiting to be born. We spend our whole lives trying to cover up our flaws, an unappealing voice, poor communication skills, a humble background, and old failures we bury like scars. But you can't overcome what you won't confront. The Stoics didn't try to hide their weaknesses. They dragged them into the light, dissected them, lived with them, and through a cold, almost ruthless discipline turned them into the foundation of strength. In today's world, where everyone is busy crafting a better version of themselves by layering on polish and pretense, Stoicism takes the opposite route. Strip away the illusion. Stare directly at your most vulnerable self and take action from there. The question isn't how can I be perfect, but rather do I have the courage to improve the part of myself I hate the most. Theodore Roosevelt was a sickly, asthmatic child who was constantly bullied. No one thought that pale little boy would grow into one of the strongest presidents in American history. But Roosevelt's transformation didn't begin with inspiration. It began with rage. Rage at his own weakness. He trained his body relentlessly, learned to speak with power, mastered the art of persuasion, and turned his flaws into fame. What others avoided, he faced. He didn't wait for salvation, he forged it. Socrates once said, "Let him that would move the world first move himself." You can't change the world around you if you haven't started with the darkness within. But most of us never dare to look. Have you ever asked yourself, why do I get so defensive when criticized? Why does speaking in public terrify me? Why do I shrink when I'm in the spotlight? It's not just your personality. It's that you've never trained yourself to face what unsettles you. The mind is like a cluttered room. If you don't clean it, you live in chaos and call it normal. I once met a businesswoman named Anna who was so afraid of rejection that she couldn't bring herself to call clients. She knew it was her weakness, but kept avoiding it by tweaking her website, perfecting her PowerPoint, and collecting certifications. Then she forced herself to make one sales call every day. Shaking hands, stumbling words, and all. She did it for 30 days. And after that month, the biggest shift wasn't in her sales skills. It was in how she saw herself. Her strength had begun exactly where her weakness lived. Facing your weakness isn't a one-time act. It's a habit, a daily ritual, like looking into the mirror and asking, how did I respond to criticism today? Or, what did I feel when someone outperformed me? The point isn't to self-punish, but to understand how your mind moves. When you make a habit of self-inquiry, weakness stops being a wound and becomes a map. Here's a simple but powerful way to start. Every night, write down one moment during the day when you felt like you failed, lost control, or showed weakness. Don't justify it. Just record what happened. Then ask yourself, if I could redo that moment tomorrow, how would I act differently? This is how you turn memory into training and weakness into weaponry. Resilience isn't something we're born with. We build it in the exact moments we feel most small. If you truly want a mind as strong as stone, start with the softest part. Pick up that stone, no matter how worthless it seems, and lay it down as the first brick in your foundation. Don't wait to feel ready. Readiness never comes. You act while you're still afraid. And when facing yourself becomes a habit, something interesting happens. The very things that once held you back become openings. That's the turning point when weakness becomes power and obstacles become launch pads. That's the next lesson. Not just facing adversity, but using it as leverage to rise. But before you get there, remember this: you don't need to be stronger than others. You just need to be braver than the person you were yesterday. Turn obstacles into stepping stones. Number 4, turn obstacles into stepping stones. There's a truth most people don't want to admit. No one grows up peacefully. What we call maturity always comes with a crack, one that starts from within. The mind is like a stone. It must be struck open to reveal whether it hides dust, coal, or diamond. If you want to build mental strength, don't wish for fewer obstacles. Learn to move toward them as they appear, because maybe they're not here to stop you, but to see if you're ready to move forward. Look at Jan Koum, the founder of WhatsApp. He grew up in a poor village in Soviet-era Ukraine, where phone lines were tapped and food was rationed. When he moved to the US, he worked as a janitor and lived on welfare. In 2009, he applied for a job at Facebook and got rejected. Fast forward to 2024, and Facebook acquired WhatsApp for $19 billion. The irony isn't in the money. It's in the fact that the man they once rejected used that very rejection as leverage. To a Stoic, humiliation isn't something to dwell on. It's fuel. Seneca once wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction." nor a man perfected without trials. What makes a gem shine isn't light, it's pressure. You want to shine, you have to accept the grind. Right now, your mind might be an unpaved road, and adversity is the first wave of traffic. It'll leave bumps, but the more traffic it gets, the more defined it becomes. Your thoughts work the same way. Every time you're pushed out of your comfort zone, you face a choice. Retreat and protect your ease, or carve a new path in your thinking. Over time, this becomes your instinct to endure and rise. Not because you're stubborn, but because you've been forged that way. When the USS Thresher submarine sank in 1963, the U.S. Navy didn't rush to blame technology or bad luck. They sat down, dissected every failure, and built a new safety protocol called SubSafe. Since then, not a single submarine under that system has suffered a major accident. One disaster became a life-saving standard. One failure turned into a non-negotiable principle. The problem isn't the fall. The real question is, are you alert enough to learn something from it? Want a practical tool to turn this idea into a habit? It's simple. Whenever a problem hits, before reacting, write down 3 ways it's shaping you. No need for fake positivity or mental gymnastics. Just ask yourself, what am I learning here? Calmness, patience, conflict resolution. Do this daily for 30 days. You'll realize what changes isn't your life. It's the operating system in your mind. Romans 5:3-4 says, "We glory in tribulations also, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope." Suffering isn't meaningless. It's a process of transformation. Struggle builds patience. Patience builds experience. And from experience, hope is reborn. Not the naive kind, but a hope forged in blood, sweat, and time. You can't wait for life to get easier before deciding to live stronger. That moment won't come. What you can do and must do is become someone hardship can no longer paralyze. Ask yourself, if I use today's obstacle like a weight to train my mind, how strong will I be 1 year from now? Don't wish for a smooth road. Get better shoes. Don't avoid the blows. Learn to use them as a springboard. And never forget, every time you overcome an obstacle, you're not just getting closer to your goal. You're becoming the kind of person who deserves that goal. If you've read this far, then clearly you're not just curious, you're serious. Most people stop when they understand. The ones who truly want change keep going, even when it gets hard. Like this video is your way of saying you've chosen the real path. One where every challenge is a mirror, and only you decide how far you go. And this isn't the peak. To go further, you'll need a skill few have the patience to master. Discipline in the smallest steps. Quiet, unflashy. But it's the strongest foundation you'll ever build, and you'll need it more than you think. Take small steps with discipline. Number 5, take small steps with discipline. There's a kind of power that makes no noise. It doesn't explode. It doesn't seek recognition. It doesn't show up in grand victories. But in the dullest of days, when you keep going, even though no one's watching, no one's cheering. Most call it perseverance. The Stoics call it something more. Repeated self-mastery. Discipline in the tiniest steps. Even when motivation is gone, we live in a world of fast love, fast pivots, and fast quitting, everything has to be fast. Wins must be spectacular. But here's the truth. Most things that last are built slowly, quietly. Strength isn't forged in big decisions, but in small ones you repeat every day. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you seek tranquility, do less or more accurately. Do what's essential, because most of what we say and do is not essential. Calm, strength, and steadiness come not from doing more, but from doing the essentials consistently." Resilience isn't glamorous. Most of the time, it's boring. It's setting your alarm and getting up on time with no one forcing you. It's practicing a skill slowly, steadily, without applause. It's showing up to train, even when it rains, when you're tired, when nothing seems to change. This is nothing new to soldiers, athletes, or real entrepreneurs. Admiral William McRaven used to make SEAL trainees make their beds perfectly every morning, not because he loved neatness, but because he understood this. If you can do the small things right each day, you'll be ready to face death without flinching. So, the real question is, what are you training for with your tiny daily habits? Consider Angela Duckworth, a psychologist who once taught in underfunded public schools. She discovered something powerful. Achievement isn't tied to IQ or talent, but to grit, long-term perseverance, and inner discipline. The top students weren't always the smartest. They were the ones who didn't quit, no matter how hard the homework, how low the grades, how little the recognition. So ask yourself, are you losing because you're not good enough, or because you walked off the field too soon? Here's a strange truth. Small, timely, repeated actions can break through the wall of procrastination, but you won't feel like doing them. And that's the key. Don't wait for motivation. Act first. Action pulls emotion in its wake, not the other way around. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, interviewed Olympians and top CEOs. They shared one trait. Their results weren't powered by raw willpower, but by structure. They broke things down into micro behaviors. A glass of water after waking up, 1 hour of writing each morning, a focused training block every afternoon, and they stuck to them relentlessly. No one noticed while they were doing these things, but everyone noticed when the results showed up. So, what are you building in your life? And more importantly, what systems are in place to keep you on track even when you're bored, confused, or exhausted? Practically speaking, if you want to build resilience, don't aim for goals like, "I'll change my life in 30 days." Break it down instead. A 10-minute walk each morning, 5 pages each night, 1 hour of focused work. Don't try to be perfect. Just don't quit. Track what you've done, not to show off, but to prove to yourself that you can keep a promise. Small commitments shape big identities. There are things you'll never do if you wait to feel inspired. But if you act first, you can rewrite your own story from "I'm someone who gives up" to "I finish what I start." Here's a tough but necessary question. How many times have you tried to build a habit only to sabotage it days later? If this sounds familiar, don't blame weak willpower. Blame a lack of structure to protect small behaviors. And the good news, that's fixable starting today. And once you've learned to walk with discipline, you'll need one more thing to stay the course. Belief in what hasn't happened yet. Not fantasy, but a clear vision of what could go wrong and how you'll respond. That's the next lesson. An ancient, powerful Stoic tool. Visualization and faith in adversity. Are you ready? Number 6. Trust and envision. Trust and envision. If you close your eyes each morning and tell yourself, "Today I will win," you might just be daydreaming. But if you close your eyes and picture every move, every obstacle, every surge of emotion, and how you'll respond to them, then that's no longer fantasy. That's preparation. To the Stoics, visualization wasn't about wishful thinking. It was mental training, sharp as a blade. So you can walk into the world with the mindset of someone who's already been through the fight, even if only in the mind. Epictetus said it plainly. It is not events that disturb people. It is their judgments concerning them. It's not what happens that breaks you. It's how you interpret it. And the mind can be trained through visualization, not to comfort yourself, but to condition your response to rehearse adversity before it strikes. True visualization means sitting still for 5 quiet minutes each day and asking yourself, if today goes wrong, if I lose the deal, get rejected, make a costly mistake, how will I react if someone I trust betrays me? If I fall short of what I aimed for? You don't dodge those thoughts. You walk into them. You stare fear in the face and plan your counter. That's Stoic visualization. No sugarcoating, no illusions, no self-deceit. And then you go further. You picture who you'll become if you make it through, not some filtered, polished success version of yourself, but a calm, grounded, resilient human being. How will your eyes change your stride, your decision-making? Why do so many live as if they have another lifetime to start living for real? You don't. You're training to live now. This habit demands silence. No phone, no music, no scrolling. Just you and your mind. The force that will either guide your life or run it into chaos if left untrained. Every morning before the world comes at you, spend 5 minutes with yourself. Visualize in detail what you want, what could block you, and how you'll respond to each twist. The more you do it, the more your mind becomes a seasoned fighter. You walk into the day not hoping for luck, but carrying the calm of someone who has already won in their mind. Entrepreneurs, explorers, even political leaders from Shackleton to Viktor Frankl had this in common. They didn't wait for perfect conditions. They prepared for the worst and held on to the vision of the best. They were ready to survive, but also aimed to build something meaningful. And they trained for this daily, quietly, without applause. Remember, behavior doesn't just happen. It's programmed by thought, and thought is built from what you repeat. So, what are you repeating each morning? Vague worries or sharp, clear visions of what you want and what you might lose? Resilience doesn't begin with shouting, "I'm strong." It begins in stillness, in the quiet moment, when you look straight at what could break you and choose not to break. But there's one more thing. You can't live in your head forever. Life shows up. The punches you didn't see coming, the long, cold stretches when no one's by your side. And when that moment comes, you'll be called to fight a different battle, not against events, but against loneliness and quiet self-doubt. So, how do you prepare for that? That's the final lesson. Prepare for the hard and the lonely, because sometimes it's not the storm that breaks you, it's the silence, if you're not strong enough on the inside. Number 7, be ready for the hard and be ready for the hard and lonely times. Lonely times. No one ever tells you this. To build true mental resilience, you'll have to give up something deeply familiar: companionship. Not because no one wants to walk with you, but because most people simply can't or won't go that far. Some journeys are meant to be taken alone, not because you're lonely, but because your choices made the crowd turn away. They chose what's easy. You chose what's right. Stoicism doesn't promise quick happiness. It doesn't sugarcoat life. It stares directly into the raw truth of existence. Loss, chaos, and long, cold winters, both outside and within. A true Stoic doesn't train their mind to impress anyone. They do it so they don't fall apart when everything else does. That's why solitude isn't an accident. It's the natural consequence of a life driven by reason, not fleeting emotion. And the paradox is, solitude becomes the ideal space to forge inner strength. Can you endure the moments when no one understands you? When no one believes in your path and still keep going? Discipline can make you feel like an outsider when you're studying after work, while your friends are out. When you're up at dawn, running while your family sleeps. When you choose to invest in skills instead of spending on instant pleasures, you'll start to wonder, am I living the wrong way? That question matters. But instead of avoiding it, learn to live with it. We think hard work should be instantly recognized. But in truth, the invisible phase often lasts longer than we expect. A founder doesn't create something remarkable under the spotlight, but in the long, silent years, when no one mentions his name, when no one gets why he skips dinners, weekends, and easy conversations, those sacrifices aren't always seen. But it's exactly that invisibility that forges an iron core. Isolation, if you're not prepared, can make you question even the right things. So be clear from the start. You didn't choose a crowded path. You chose one that leads to inner power. And that path is never crowded. It shouldn't be. If it were easy, everyone would walk it. So, how do you cultivate that kind of strength in today's world? First, stop expecting effort to always bring applause. Sometimes, no one will say you're doing great. And in that silence, you have to learn to validate yourself. A simple, powerful habit. Nightly self-reflection. Just ask one question. Did I live by my principles today? No one else needs to know what you did, but you do. Another strategy. Let yourself be misunderstood without rushing to explain. When you say no to parties to stay aligned with your goals, when you reject shortcuts, people will laugh. They'll see you as extreme, dull, even arrogant. But ask yourself, are they living the life you want? If not, why seek their approval? Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, once said, "Man conquers the world by conquering himself." If you can master yourself, you don't need to control the world. And to master yourself, you must learn how to stand alone. Eventually, the isolation you once feared will become your safe haven. You'll realize strength doesn't require a crowd. Righteousness doesn't need applause. Progress doesn't have to be loud. When you can look in the mirror in the middle of the night and say, "I'm on the right path," that's power no one can take from you. And if today you feel alone on your path, keep going, not because someone's waiting for you, but because no one else can walk it for you. We've just explored Conclusion's 7 principles of building mental resilience through the lens of Stoic philosophy. Not flashy slogans, but a compass for those truly committed to growing from the inside out. It begins with seeking discomfort. No one grows strong by staying safe. We step beyond our limits, not to show off, but to discover the true reach of our willpower. We learn to face our weaknesses, not deny them, not run from them, but confront them head-on to take control. And when life hurls obstacles our way, we train ourselves to turn them into stepping stones, not with complaints, not with excuses, but with action. Then come the quieter foundations, showing up with discipline day after day. No applause, no spotlight. We toughen the mind by imagining the worst, not to live in fear, but to stay unfazed when reality strikes. And finally, we prepare for the hardest part, the solitude, the moments when no one is there, because it's in those moments that steel is forged. Stoicism doesn't hand you weapons to change the world out there. It teaches you to build an inner fortress so nothing out there can break you. And if there's one thing worth investing in for a lifetime, it's a mind as solid as stone. If one of these 7 lessons struck a chord or reminded you of something within yourself, share it in the comments. I read them all, and who knows, your story might be the strength someone else needs. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, not just to follow a channel, but to stay connected on a journey to become someone who doesn't break. We'll meet again at a deeper, stronger, more honest place.